So for the second skill, I want to show you a mock flat fell. Typical flat fell seams are an enclosed seam. So if I was doing a typical flat fell, I would be sewing wrong sides together first. But because this is a mock, it's not a true enclosed seam, I'm going to start by sewing right sides together. So I've got my two pieces, which are 4 inches by 8 inches. And I am going to just simply sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Make sure you backstitch at the front and at the end to lock your stitches in place. Once you have done the 1/2 inch, we're going to go visit the serger to finish the edge. Now, not all of you will have sergers at home or access to a serger, in which case there are other ways for us to finish this edge. You can pink them, which means that you can use a zigzag pair of scissors to cut this edge so that it won't fray. You could use Seams Great, which is a bias tape sort of material that you can wrap the edge. I suggest finding a way to get access to a serger, but pinking, Seams Great, those are all good options for this. If this is interior, as in it's going to be behind a lining, you wouldn't even have to finish this edge. But as of right now, I'm going to take this and we're going to go over to the serger. On the mock flat fell, I am now going to finish my raw edge right here. So I'm going to come in. I'm not going to be cutting off any fabric. I mean, I can cut off stray threads if it's fraying. I'm going to come in and just finish that edge with a serge, or however you want to finish that edge. Just like that. Probably you want to use the exact same color, but for the sake of this, having two different colors so you can see the different machines can be a good thing. On the mock flat fell, I have finished my line of stitching at a 1/2 inch, and I have also finished my edge. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press on the right side of the fabric. I'm going to press, or on the wrong side of the fabric, sorry. I'm going to press this the direction that I want it to go. I wasn't able to press it open first, so we just have to make sure that we give a good tug on our fabric. Not a strong tug, just enough to make sure that I'm not creating any seam wells on the front. And then I'm pressing this all one direction. Just like that. This stitch could be done, this initial stitch could be done with a 6-thread serger, which does the serge and the straight stitch all at the same time. However, I don't happen to have one of those, and not a lot of people do, so it's good to understand how to do it without one of those machines. And we're ready to go finish sewing the mock flat fell. To do the final stitching on the mock flat fell, notice which way your seam is pressed. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to hold that all in place by first sewing a 1/16 of an inch away from my seam line. Make sure you tie a knot at the beginning, at the end, and remember we tie a knot by back stitching. And now I'm just sewing at a 1/16 of an inch. I happen to have a foot that has a 1/16 of an inch guide on it here. You can just use the inside edge of whatever foot you happen to be using, or most sewing machines come with this 1/16 of an inch guide somewhere, or you can buy one yourself. Or you can just get really good at eyeballing a 1/16 of an inch. So there is a 1/16 of an inch. And now I'm going to sew a 1/4 of an inch away from this stitch line. Not from the seam line, but from the stitch line. Make sure that I back stitch. And now I'm sewing a 1/4 of an inch away. And now I have a double line of stitching on the surface, and it looks like a flat fell seam. It's not, it's a mock. On the back, you'll notice I'll have three, well, technically four. I'll have the finish of the serge, which you can see my second top stitch actually ends up on top of that serge. And then I'll have two lines of stitching over here that are 1/16 of an inch away. That is a mock flat fell seam.